Lindsay. This is Better with Therapy for physical, mindful, and uplifting topics. Lindsay's been a patient here for how long? Lindsay Meeks.
Um, let's see, a little over 2.5 years now, I believe.
I feel like we've gotten to know each
Yeah,
other like quite a
fairly
bit
well, yeah,
over
at
the
this point.
last 2.5 years. Even I got to know your beautiful daughter Andy.
Yeah, oh yeah,
She's
definitely.
like we're even measuring her height on the
that
wall
was so
with a
cute.
pencil with the
Yeah,
dates.
yeah, I know. I thought that was so cool, and she loves coming in here
Yeah.
and seeing you guys.
And I think initially she was like it's always weird going into a therapy place like 2.5 years ago, but now
Oh,
she
yeah.
comes in and it's like she's super
She's
comfortable.
just like at home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she brings me potato chips or
Yeah.
chips every time, which
Yeah,
is nice.
that was so funny too. Yeah, it's been a crazy 2.5 years, but it's been really good having somewhere solid to come and like focus on getting better in my health and recovering from the knee injury and everything like that. So it's been really good coming here.
Some of the questions I have is where you grew up around here, right?
I did, yeah. So I grew up in Salisbury, and then we moved to Berlin when I was in 8th grade, and then my dad lives in Ocean City, so it was kind of just between Salisbury and Ocean City for my whole childhood.
Okay.
So, which is fun, you get the best of both worlds.
Right.
You get the ocean, then you get a little bit of like the woods and the country, and so yeah.
Did you go to the beach a lot?
We did. Oh yeah, definitely. So I grew up surfing, skateboarding, obviously.
Yeah.
And just fishing, crabbing, doing all the fun outdoor recreational things that we're able to do where we live.
And then where did you go to like schooling, like elementary school and middle school?
So I went to Worcester Preparatory School from kindergarten through 8th grade, and then I switched to Stephen Decatur middle school. Went to Stephen Decatur High School, and I ended up I went to Snow Hill High School, and then I actually ended up getting my GED in 11th grade. I went to all of the schools, pretty much.
Did you transition to Snow Hill just from location, or just trying a different school?
My mom had moved to Snow Hill,
Oh, okay.
And it seemed like a better fit for me because I had friends that were in Snow Hill already, so I had a lot more friends over in Snow Hill, I felt, than I did closer to here. So
I always feel like school, like for whether it's middle school, high school, like it seems to be based on where they have their friends.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
there's the school itself, but like even my kids probably made most of their decisions on based like where they hang out with.
Yeah, at that age, that's like the deciding factor on everything is your friends and the social scene and what's going to be more fun. At that age, it was all just want to have fun.
Right.
School was kind of secondary to that, which yeah.
So I mean, it's really just about social groups and things.
Yeah.
So then where did you work? Like after, like throughout high school, did you have jobs or?
I did. I always babysat. I babysat my cousins and a few other families. I also worked at the Rice House for a few years. I was I was the carryout girl
I
there.
love that place.
Yeah. So I worked there. I used to wait tables.
I'd probably go there weekly for carryout.
Yeah, did you really?
Yeah, I get the orange chicken for my daughter.
Did you really? You probably ran into me there then, because I worked there off and on for probably 3 or 4 years, I'd say. And then I also waited tables at a place in Bishopville called Greenwood Farms, which is no longer there.
Yeah, I know Jeff.
But yep. So I always also worked with my dad. In the summertime, I would do like a lot of work with our company, Delaware Elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Would go in there and file paperwork or do whatever to earn some money to go to the movies or go do whatever I wanted to do. So
is that how you started with Delaware Elevator?
Just
like you started helping out with your family and then your dad, and then you kind of grew into that.
Yeah, for sure. I used to go in there and help my grandma. Actually, I think I was like 7 years old. Was like the first summer that I had spent time there and like earned money there. Just working for my family. And every summer I kind of went back to that.
So what are you doing there now?
So now I'm a certified elevator mechanic. I'm also a qualified elevator inspector. I recently, obviously I've been out of work, off and on, I guess, for the past 2.5 years.
From this injury.
Yeah.
That we'll talk about.
Been working, but been maintaining. It's just been a different capacity than what I had kind of envisioned, once I got my certification finished and everything. But So now I do a lot of consulting. I do a lot of surveying. I do a lot of pinch hitting for the company and like the organization itself. But my strong suit would be kind of like troubleshooting and capital reserve project management and modernization project management and trying to work with customers to you know do the best that we can, make sure that all their elevator equipment is safe, but also being mindful of their budget and economically trying to help people be able to come up with a good game plan for equipment replacement because it's a huge ordeal.
Right.
So
right.
yeah.
So you've kind of grown into that, and now you're coordinating a lot of activities in the company.
Yes. Yeah. I do everything from estimating to the consulting to the specification creation for other contractors to bid to, and just learned it from the ground up. And so
you kind of grew up in it.
Yeah.
And then how about you? You have sisters.
I do. I have two sisters.
Yeah. And where are you in the mix?
I'm the middle child.
You're the middle child.
I'm the middle child. Yeah. So yeah, my dad had 3 girls, so I was like the tomboy of the 3 of us. So I was the one to kind of, I guess, spend a lot of time in the elevator company.
Right. Are you guys like similar in some aspects, different, or?
I'd say we're all 3 probably as different as we could get as far as like our personalities go, but at the same time we are all still like very similar, just in like our morals and our values and like the way that we were raised,
Right.
So they're definitely my best friends. I love my sisters. We have a really good relationship.
No, that's
we're
great.
all pretty close. Yeah.
I mean, I even know like mechanically when we've had a problem with a piece of equipment in here, when you were coming as a patient, still at the early stages, we were hiring someone to come fix it, and they were coming from, I think, Baltimore or something way out of town, and you like knew we were having a problem. You said, "I'll take a look at it," and then you fixed it. Which was huge. So I like really appreciate that. So
no problem.
So that's definitely like a good promotion for like your expertise with Delaware Elevator and the company itself.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely learned that from the ground up, and it's really funny to me because I kind of do take a step back and I'm like, okay, I grew up in ultimately ADA compliancy because that's what elevators and lifts and everything were designed for, is for people that are hurt, to be able to get from point A to point B. And I never saw it from the point of view of being hurt and how you do avoid going to places that are not handicap accessible and how important that really is.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's huge because even when I first started doing physical therapy, even we saw how it was so important to have handicap access or whether it's a ramp or an elevator, because that would, if someone has an injury and they're in the hospital, that can lengthen their hospital stay or prevent them from going home because they can't get in their house.
Yeah. Oh, 110%.
So that's sometimes we have people who unfortunately are in a mad rush to get an elevator or a lift, and I'm sure you've had people talk to you
all the time. And really the unfortunate thing that I found is that most people that genuinely need them, unfortunately, they cannot afford them.
Yeah.
And there is no, if you're a veteran, they will pay. Sometimes insurance companies will pay for like a stair climber lift. But unless you are a veteran, I don't believe that there's any kind of grant money. There's no kind of program. There's no kind of philanthropy genuinely going on for people that need it to stay in their homes. And so it can be quite sad, you know. And then you have other people that come in and they're like, oh, well, we have a 3-story home on the beach and our dog has bad hips. So we bought an elevator so we can take our dog out to go to the bathroom. It's just wow, all right, good for you guys. But it's just, it kind of does just give you a different perspective on everything. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's huge. And I'm sure you guys have probably done, so you do everything from commercial to residential?
Yeah, so we do residential, we do commercial, new installations, we do modernizations, we do the service and the maintenance, the testing, and we also manufacture elevators as well.
Oh wow!
So, yeah.
And you're actually, so I know we're not really, but getting on this.
Sorry.
Talking about this though, like really, I mean, I was in Isla Morada, and there was I saw Delaware Elevator. Was it an office there?
It is.
And I was like, okay, it looked the same. And I think when I came back, I asked you, and it was one of your offices, right?
Yeah, it's one of our offices. We are all up and down the East Coast, but we we'll go anywhere. We'll go international. We've done projects in all over the world.
Wow.
All over the world.
So as when you were like in high school and things like that, one of the topics for the Better with Therapy, this podcast is, what did you find uplifting or fun to do?
Mhm.
Like not necessarily school, but what were your hobbies?
I loved sports. I played a ton of sports. I played field hockey, basketball, lacrosse. I ended up switching to tennis, and then I surfed, skateboarded. I really loved action sports, like really
Team or individual though?
individual
Yeah.
action sports. And I
Uh-huh.
played team sports, but I definitely
Well, actually, yeah, I
loved
guess lacrosse and all that you said.
yeah, so I grew up playing lacrosse since from kindergarten through like 10th grade, I think it was, and was always very, very active. Was, one of the kids, like mom would have to call me in, like I'd hear her hollering in the neighborhood. Like I love to be outside. I love to be active. I'm not somebody that likes to sit around too much. On the flip side, I do a lot of artwork and stuff like that as well. So, but would prefer to be outside, running around,
Yeah.
doing something fun. Yeah.
So do you see? So you've been here since high school.
Mhm.
Do you see a lot of people that maybe you went to high school with that went away and then they come back? I feel like I don't know what the percentage is, but I feel like there's maybe 25%, which is really cool, I think. I mean, I don't think it's bad,
Definitely.
but they end up, they go somewhere, they try something for a while, or they're successful at somewhere else, but then they choose to bring their success back here to the area.
Yeah, I definitely see that a lot. I think that we're very fortunate with the sense of community where we live. And I think that is a huge deciding factor when you are looking to have a family and settle down and pick somewhere to raise your children. We're very fortunate where we live, and that we have a very strong community here on the Eastern Shore. And I would think that has a lot to do with it.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Then going to as far as how old were you when you had Andy?
So I was 28 when I had Anderson.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then how did that change things?
Oh, tremendous. I mean, it changed everything. It just completely changes you entirely as a person when you have a child. It's, you're not living for yourself anymore. It's your child, and it's a really awesome thing. Like,
oh, absolutely.
I love being
having,
a mom.
So. Having children is the best thing. It can definitely be a lot of work, but
it's a lot of work.
It actually, like they always say, my dad always told me that when you have a child, it'll make you unselfish.
Yes, 110%. It really does give you a different perspective on just life in general and prioritizing things,
Yeah.
No, I fully enjoy being a mom, and it's funny because I actually didn't. There was a point in time that I was told that I probably wouldn't have kids, so was always kind of bummed about that, and like that's when I decided to go 2 feet into the business, because I said, if I'm not going to have children right away, and then I can be that person to run around, and I can like grind and do what needs to be done, because elevators are a 24/7 company. So, then the stars ended up aligning, and I ended up having Anderson.
So you were 2 feet into work, like I'm all in, and then you had Anderson.
Yeah, I was like, when I get older, I'll adopt some kids, and I'm gonna just focus on being set financially to be able to do that. And then I ended up having Anderson. It completely flipped everything upside down a little, but in like the best ways. So,
right. She's beautiful. You're a great mom.
She's
I can see that the bond you guys have is great.
Thank you. Yeah, she's definitely my little partner, just my little buddy all the time.
So then starting with like talking about a little bit about your injury. You had Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
And your injury was, so how old is Anderson now?
She's 6. She just turned 6.
So she was about 4 or what, 3.5, 3 when you had your injury?
She was 3.5 when this happened.
So tell us a little bit, like, what was your injury? So one of the things you did, I guess, as an outlet, like that was like the uplifting part, like just to like take a break from things was what?
So thankful that when I had Anderson initially, found that there's a lot of downtime that comes in with being a mom, and like she's taking a nap, and I can do the dishes, and I can do the laundry, and I can do all the things, but sometimes you do want to do something for yourself. When I had her, I decided to pick up my guitar. Like I learned how to play guitar, and just because I thought that was something that maybe her and I could do together eventually too. And I'm really glad now that I decided to bite that on at that time, because when I was in a lot of pain with my knee and didn't know what to do, especially in the evening time, and just was kind of trying to grit and bear it the best that I could. Having that as a tool to go to kind of distract my brain from
Sure.
focusing on this too much was really useful. I would probably say it probably is what kept me halfway sane throughout this
Which
whole
goes
thing.
to the,
You know?
the mindful part of
Yeah.
Of someone. So can you describe, like, how was your injury? What happened with your injury?
Okay.
Can you like describe to us, like,
Sure.
what happened?
How much time do we have?
Yeah, like a little summary.
No. Okay, so I broke my ACL skateboarding, and
But weren't you on like were you on like a long skateboard
Mm-hmm.
with a like a pole?
it's called a handboard, and it's a stand-up paddleboard, and it came with like a little stick thing that you can use to push yourself. But
Like the thing you saw on Shark Tank?
yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
that same brand board. They're really, really fun.
Yeah.
But I thought that I looked like a dork with the little stick thing, so
Yeah.
I would never use the little stick. I skated on it, and it was like a 6 foot long, very, very heavy skateboard, and they have trucks on them that sit a little bit higher off the ground as well.
So it was like, it had to be like a cruiser. It wasn't like you could pop up and turn.
No. It was
Yeah.
a really big, long, heavy board that there's no, you can turn it, and you have to be able to do it really skillfully. Unfortunately, where I was at, I was coming through town, and it was
In Berlin?
right in Berlin. Was riding up to the Atlantic Hotel to a meeting. I was running late and decided, there was a funeral going on. When there's a funeral, I can't really park any closer than where I'm leaving from, essentially. Right. So wanted to get up there quickly. I ran out the door, and I remember, like, I looked at my bicycle, and it had the baby carrier on the back, and then my skateboard was right there. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna take the skateboard. And horrible decision. So I was coming into town, and something I had done lots of times, but it was crazy, crazy busy. I had a car coming right up behind me. There was a car in front of me. And then right in front of the hotel, when people are turning to go down Broad Street, there was another car getting ready to turn. And I just got the feeling that the car that was turning did not see me. There was enough of a gap in between the car that was in front of me and behind me, that I felt like if this woman truly didn't see me, that she was going to try to cut to go down that street, and I would have been hit. Like, I just got the sense that I was about to get potentially hit by a car. So I decided to try to stop the skateboard without the stick, because I didn't use it.
You didn't have it.
And I just remember thinking, I'm on this really heavy board. I need to be very, very careful about how I do this. And I very, very gingerly tried to feather my right leg down onto the asphalt, and not even in a sense like just go straight down with it. Tried to just barely kind of like kick my heel down to where it could like slowly kind of compress to stop. But the minute that my foot made any contact with the pavement is exactly when my ACL popped out. Well, so that now I'm going downhill. I'm on the board. I look down, my leg's like this, and wasn't wearing a helmet, and I did not know how to get off the board safely, because I was going really fast, and still concerned about that car. They still didn't think that they had seen me. So I remember I crossed my arms, and I like went like this back on my bad leg.
Oh my gosh.
And I went to the sidewalk, because
so it was already torn, you think?
it was already, no, it was 110% already snapped and broken, and then I put it back down and in a way to jet my body into the sidewalk. And the funny thing is the car that was behind me, I had done all this, and the car that was behind me did not stop. They kept going. And so I kind of like was in shock, but everyone on the sidewalk was going, oh my gosh, it's a hit and run. They thought that this car had hit me. They're like, get the license plate. But that, the car didn't hit me. They just didn't stop when it was just such a mess.
So that was
such a mess.
That was an ER visit, right?
Yeah. The ambulance came and scraped me off the street. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So how was the decision like to have surgery?
I'll be honest, I did not realize that there was an option to not have surgery. Had I have known probably what I know now, I would have probably opted to not have any surgery, just because after 2.5 years of being in pain and research and everything, I've just learned that in some instances you can rehabilitate around not having an ACL.
There are times, yeah. It's kind of depends on the activity level you want to get back to.
Yeah.
So I know yours was, I think you mentioned surfing.
Oh yes,
So
definitely.
that's something where, then they would, if you were kind of working like a desk job and your activity level wasn't really high, then sometimes they wouldn't do surgery. It was,
Yeah.
again, I don't know 100% how everyone makes their decisions, but it was
Yeah.
probably based on your activity level
Yeah.
that they thought the safest thing was to have that. But then after
Definitely.
you had it, how did it start out, and then how were you feeling?
Okay. Well, I started out hopeful because I was thinking people like football, football players tear their ACLs all the time and they are able to come back and continue to play and have somewhat of a career. And so was hopeful that it would just be another ACL repair surgery and that I would be back up on my feet fairly quickly and you know back to living my life and after a year or so and have a decent recovery.
Yeah,
Did not.
that's the expectation
Yeah,
always. You're
exactly.
going into it thinking this is going to be the best thing for me.
Yeah, exactly. You don't realize initially unless you've been injured like this, you don't realize that it will necessarily not really ever be the same potentially. It's just not
They
gonna
always
be
try
the
to
same,
say, they say usually, and we even say like you might not be 100%, but the goal is to be 95 to 98%. Like I've had surgery on my shoulder, and if I want to, I can still feel it. That was like in 98, but I don't notice it most of the time through my daily life.
Yeah,
But if I think about it, I will.
Yeah, I think time kind of helps to kind of muddle those, that. But when it's
Yeah.
new and it's fresh and you're adjusting to it, it can be difficult.
So I just know because I treated you a lot at the beginning, after the first surgery, and then you're going through therapy, and then there was a time at the beginning. It's hard to tell where someone's going to be because we're still working on range of motion. We're still kind of maybe not even started strength that much, but then I remember the range of motion was difficult to get.
Yeah.
And we got it, but it was definitely uncomfortable, I would say.
Yeah.
So what was going through like your mind, like how is your mindset?
Yeah. I think
Because this is maybe after like not just a couple months, or maybe a couple months actually.
Yeah.
We're still like working on some things that were difficult.
Yeah, I think probably the first inkling that I kind of noticed was that the swelling really wasn't going down to the extent that I felt like it probably should be.
Yeah.
And then especially in the evening time, at night was very difficult. Every night was really majorly difficult. But you just kind of learn to meal prep and streamline. Like I learned how to streamline the amount of steps that I was having to take. And I learned to not exert the amount of steps that I knew I had throughout the day. Like I could not go crazy in the morning and then not be able to function at night because I have a daughter to take care of. I have to cook dinner. I have to give her a bath. I have to put her to bed.
Right.
Anything
she
else.
Was 3.5.
Yeah, exactly. Like very, very demanding. And she's really an angel.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm very lucky that had I had a child that was just wanted to be a little difficult or something, I don't know if I would have survived. My daughter is such a patient, awesome person that like she in her own little ways was helping and she
can tell when mommy's hurting.
Yeah, we were kind of almost we were like a team trying to get everything done. And so in those moments I think it's just, I don't know, it's kind of almost a blur sometimes, but we made it. We did it. You do what you have to do. At the end of the day, you just find a way to do what you have to do.
So then I remember, going through therapy, it was, I don't even know how long. It was months, and you got your range of motion, you got your strength for the most part, but your quadricep was still weak. Like there was, and we were trying everything. You were trying everything at home. We got you to the point where you were like really doing your home exercises. I know we bug everyone about that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But we wanted to do all the options to make sure just make sure there's hopefully no problems.
Yes, yeah.
No problems at all. But it was still difficult to get that quad strong, and that's super important on any knee surgery is to get the quadriceps strong, particularly ACL knee replacements. And it still wasn't getting there. And then you were also having pain. In the evening.
Yes.
I remember you were telling me it was like it was just a weird type of pain.
Like there's this one spot, I guess, on the inside of my knee that hurt so bad, and I remember thinking, like, I know that I'm going to be in pain for at least a year, maybe 18 months, maybe forever, but I did not expect the pain level to be so severe to where I would go get into like the warm bathtub and just try to and probably more like mentally just trying to block it out or something.
Right.
I mean, I was trying all the CBD creams, anything that I could think of to alleviate some of the pain, but eventually did convince the surgeon to do another MRI, and at that point in time they said that there was a cyclops lesion in there, which is a cyclops lesion essentially is either your scar tissue forms a little ball, or it could potentially be from if there was any kind of a bone fragment or something left behind, your body will form a scar tissue encapsulation of it pretty much to protect your body, I think, from if it was like a foreign material or so and because I guess you can actually get a cyclops lesion and live with it and it can be fine and not need to be removed. But because I was experiencing so much pain as well, the decision was made to go in arthroscopically and remove it, hoping that would stop the pain once that was kind of, thinking that was maybe the culprit of what all the pain was.
And I know starting out, different people, I remember years ago, one of our babysitter's mother came to us for therapy years ago, and the amount of scar tissue she built up, it was in her elbow, was so quick. It was unusual that certain people develop scar tissue differently. And whether that was, no matter what, I remember you working on it. We were working on your range of motion early on. It wasn't like I couldn't think of a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
But no matter what, you still developed that, and that was, and they determined that was one of the things that was causing your pain possibly at night. Is that right? Or no?
Yeah, I think that from what I remember, it was we really just didn't know what was causing the pain, and because there was a symptom or something that was in there that wasn't 110%, they decided to go ahead and take it out almost to rule that out as what was causing the pain.
So then they took it out, and then what happened?
Well, I remember coming in here with my arthroscopic holes bleeding a week later.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
I recall that. But the pain was just, I remember coming in here, I think in the day, the first appointment after the surgery, and I was like, oh, I don't feel it anymore. I feel so much better.
Yeah,
but the nerve block was still in play. Yeah. So it's
That's
you
deceiving.
get a little, it is.
Yeah.
So then the pain started coming back, and so then I knew that I had a problem still, and was still following up with the initial surgeon that I had, but I felt as though I needed to start going to get some other opinions. And so then that's what I started doing. I had done some research and read how important it is to try to keep your quad active. And so we continued to come in here pretty religiously and just started knocking down every single door that I could get into. And my rule of thumb, what I was thinking was, I'm going to go see as many surgeons as I need to, and two of their opinions will be the same at some point in time. Two of their game plans or plans of action or what they think is going on here.
You were saying earlier that there are some instances where people have torn their ACL and they can still be, I don't remember exactly who, but I do remember learning about some high level skiers, snow skiers, who had a torn ACL, but they were able to develop their quadricep and hamstring so well. I don't know if whether they did or didn't wear a brace. That's kind of a subject where sometimes they say the brace helps or the brace doesn't help.
Yeah.
But they were able to return to their sport of skiing and not have really any issues.
Yeah.
But it's uncommon. But it happens. But you've probably researched enough where you've seen that happen. Maybe even more than I've seen
it. More of a practice. So from what I pieced together is that over in Europe, it is becoming more common. It is still newer. I think it's like Australia and Europe who kind of started doing this first. And the reasoning why is because they found that a lot of their patients could not afford to have an ACL revision surgery. And I think that's how it started. Because they have, their healthcare system is very different from ours, where it's all government based. And so the governments over there, I think they kind of had to take a step back and say, their systems were being taxed because they're giving surgeries. People couldn't afford to pay them. And so they started to try to go down the path of, all right, well, what if we don't do the revision surgery and we do, rehabilitation and hopefully to avoid the surgery. And I think that they've found, what I've read anyway, is that they found about 50% success. It's a 50-50, and they don't know what that determining factor is on if you're going to be on the good outcome side or the bad outcome side. But, I think anybody that does end up with an ACL injury like this should consider, because it's, I've had 3 surgeries now, so I don't think that there would have been any harm in just continuing to rehabilitate it initially. And then, hey, if it failed, all right, we're going to just go ahead and operate at that point in time. But that could have maybe, probably it just would have been different. I don't know what the outcomes would have all been, because it's so hard to say. And not only did I snap my ACL, I had a fracture in my tibia. I had it was a very nasty, gnarly injury. But
so when they did, if we mentioned it, I apologize, but I can't remember. When they did this, when you went to the other second surgeon, what did he find?
So they had found that they believed that my ACL felt loose, but they didn't know exactly how loose. It was, and not only the first surgeon, the second, the third, and the fourth that I had spoken to, it was I was riding this line of, it's a little loose, but we're not entirely sure how loose. We don't know if this is something that could be rehabilitated around. You're kind of on that hairy edge of,
and we were doing therapy in the meantime, so you were, it wasn't like you just went into the second surgery. We were trying to rehab you while you were still were still looking at other surgeons to see if you needed something. So I felt like you did. I feel like you went through all the options.
Yeah, because in my head, I kept seeing my quad muscle deflate with a decrease in activity. So I'm just wanted to preserve my quad. So if I do find a good answer, then my quad won't not come back or something, So that was in my brain. I was just I just want to keep the stimulation on my quad going.
So after the Cyclops, that surgery there, did you still have the pain at night?
I did, yes.
So then so the pain at night, then you followed up with you went to another surgeon. You said you might have some laxity or looseness in your ACL. So how did you make the decision to have the second, or which actually is the third second surgery on your ACL, but the third actual surgery? How did you make that decision?
I honestly, it was very risky making that call. I felt to do that at that time. I didn't know what to do. And I spoke with a family friend who was actually a heart surgeon who had an ACL injury. And I gave him the rundown of everything that had gone on and wanted his opinion. And he had advised me that if I did not do something, that everything was going to continue to deteriorate. Because at that point in time, I was having problems with my back. I was having everything was starting to really take a toll on my body. And also got to a point where I, thought, okay, if I do have to do another surgery, if this does have to be completely redone, I'm kind of at my breaking point with this. I need to go ahead, and if I'm going to do it, it needs to happen now because I'm running out of steam.
Right.
And so after talking with our family friend, heart surgeon, and then in my mind, knowing where I was at in regards to dealing with this, just luckily found a very, very good surgeon that I had a really good feeling about, and had a friend that went to him for her meniscus, who she's also a mom with young children. She made a full recovery, and she actually works for him now.
Oh wow.
She's a nurse, so um, trusted her
Was she
opinion.
working with him when you went to see? Oh,
not at first.
not when you went to have the surgery.
No, she actually started with him probably 2 weeks after
Oh,
my
wow.
surgery. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's my friend who lives up that way. But yeah, it was just, I trusted her and like saw her experience with her meniscus and how she did make a full recovery. Thank goodness she had like 2 under 2 at the time. So felt like, it was kind of do or die.
So I know even for myself, like when you have an injury like that, or you're thinking about having a surgery, and then you decide to have the surgery, and then after surgery, there's sometimes some doubts, like, hey, where am I going to get back to?
Yes.
And I think it affects, and we realize this too, like physically it affects people, but I think it affects people mentally just as much, if not more, than physically.
Probably.
So how is it, like, were you, and one of the questions I ask people a lot, like, are you like, and there's no right or wrong answer, like, were you praying, are you religious, or
oh yeah, I prayed all the time, and I think having my daughter with me got to thinking, God forbid, anything can happen to anybody at any point in time. We could walk out the door, get hit by a car, have any kind of accident. You could just trip on the curb. Not like it just, you just never know what could happen. And so knew that I needed to set an example for her, that if she was to ever get hurt in her life like this, I wouldn't want for her to come to it, pretty much.
Like give up.
Like you just have to
get through it.
Yeah, exactly.
What you've done, what you're doing, and you're still doing.
Oh yeah, thank God I feel a lot better than I did.
How are you doing now?
I feel a million times better than I did.
And the pain at night?
It varies. There's good days and there's bad days, and there's contributing factors to the bad days. So sometimes it's like, okay, I can go do this activity, but I'm going to be hurting later, and risk and reward, I guess.
And your range of motion came quicker.
Yes.
This time, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh,
and your quad muscles gradually getting stronger.
Yes.
I feel like your progression this second time was much quicker than the first time.
Yeah. I feel like the swelling has decreased so much. Even the nights that I'm having a bad night, I can look at my leg and I'm like, man, it looks a lot better than it feels right now. But previous to that, if it was feeling bad, it looked 10 times worse.
Yeah, I remember you like showing me pictures.
Yeah, it was just so big and so swollen after, like driving. There was like different activity. It was weird. Different things would set it off. Like running around, like not running around, but walking around my house for an extended period of time wasn't that bad. But driving, like the constant pressure on the gas pedal, like there were just some things that set it off. I was better off if I was walking around a lot through the day than sitting with my leg down at a computer desk.
You're talking about since
before this last surgery.
Before the last surgery, yeah. I remember you. And then now, you're walking better.
Yes.
The pain is less. Is this right?
Yes. Yeah.
Your quadricep muscles coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And how's your outlook?
I mean, I definitely feel like it's better. I feel like the outlook is way better. My back isn't hurting nearly as bad as it was. I'm definitely able to do a lot more. And even right after the surgery with my brace on still locked, I could go do more with that than I could previous to the surgery, really. I mean, I went and I was at home, but I took advantage. I made a little garden in my backyard and did all these things. And I'm like, wow, I really am feeling much better to be able to do this right now, And
I feel like, obviously, we've known you for a while. Like, you've met some genuine friendships here.
Yeah, big
time. I mean, you're
definitely.
You're hanging out with Jenna some, and doing stuff, and
we have so much fun.
Yeah. So, how has what was your? Have you been to therapy before this? Like before your ACL?
No.
So, what was your opinion coming into therapy from way back 2.5 years ago, and what is your opinion of it now? Physical therapy, that is.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. at first was coming here like, oh, I'm at a doctor's appointment. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, I go to the dentist or
Yeah.
I go to like, you know, and then coming in here so much. Now I walk in here, I'm like, you guys are almost like family.
Yeah.
It's weird. I'm like, okay, this is odd. You know, but yeah, I mean, I would not have survived this process without, like, you talk about the mental side of it. I think just having friends to come in here that genuinely cared about my recovering and like genuinely cared about seeing me get better for me and for my daughter was massive. Like that was
Awesome.
so huge just to have a support system, because everywhere else is like the knee is not a problem anymore. You just have to, like, you know, go. You just got, you know, because people just don't understand. You know, you see people that have a broken leg or hurt like all the time, and a lot of people just don't really understand. You don't really know the extent of how bad it can be until you kind of like go through it or around people consistently that are going through something like that.
Well, you're doing well, so I'm glad we're able to help you on this journey.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
How's Anderson dealing with it now?
She's good. She's definitely doing a lot better too. There were nights that she would start crying and be like, I wish you didn't break your leg. You know, I wish you didn't break your leg. I wish this never. And you know, she was very little to just so young to be watching her mom suffer like that was difficult. But now she can see that I'm getting better. Like we go swimming in the pool and I'm able to keep up with her, and we walk the dog around the neighborhood. Like, you know, so she knows that I'm getting better, and I feel like she's relieved. I'm very relieved, and I'm relieved that she's relieved. You know, like I'm glad that because I felt like she was worrying about what was going to happen to her mom. You know, it was just, and as much as I tried to, like, you know, she didn't know everything that was going on. You know, she goes to bed early. She wasn't really up and about for when the leg got intolerable, you know? So I tried to keep shield her from as much of it as I possibly could. But, you know, being a single mom too, like we're together all the time. So I can only hide but so much. You know, you have one conversation in the car on the phone with your kid in the car and you're like, oops, I forgot she was listening, you know, or something like that. But
and through this whole process, I remember we were talking, Anderson is switching schools. Or she switched, or she is switching.
She's switching this year. She would have switched last year, but missing so much work, knowing I was still having a problem, didn't felt financially secure enough to make that move at that point in time.
Because we didn't even talk about that. It affects finance. So, you know, it affects your mindset physically, and then it also financially, it can affect both your mind, your mindset too.
Yeah, now I'm very thankful that I have a good job and that I had a 401k that I had been contributing to since I was 18. I could tap it, you know, like I've pulled a medical hardship twice or on it, but was able. You know, I really feel very badly I feel like most people don't probably have the financial support that I was able to have. And had that have been an additional stressor to the point where I didn't know how I was going to like pay my mortgage, or I didn't know how I was going to buy groceries, or I didn't know how I was going to take care of myself, that would have made this process a million times worse.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that is such a huge aspect of all of it, and like being a mom and having another one to take care of. Like, I know that people get hurt and way worse than this and have way less tools to their disposal and resources to pull from than I do. And, you know, it's something that is a necessity that there's not really a good fix for right now. It's something that like some kind of philanthropy or foundation or something probably should be established for, because those are the kinds of people that you probably see that have committed suicide or something like that.
As long as like set up something where they qualify for it, and hopefully they get some. And that's like a great point. And there's probably not enough. There are some things I imagine, but even myself, I don't know enough of those options.
There's really just not options out there. Unfortunately, I don't, because I was just curious, you know, looked into it. There's really not anything out there for people that get hurt like this, and you know, you can go get food stamps and go on disability, but that's, you know, like my long-term short-term insurance plan, you know, I have a life that was established on my income before getting hurt, and I have a good insurance policy, but even that they would only pay out 60% of my
Right.
wages. So you have this life set up on, I'm maxed out trying to make everything work.
Right.
I have a life set up on like 100% of my income,
Right.
and then you take 40% of it away.
Your whole life changes.
Yeah, big time. You know.
And even going back to what you were saying about like they might not have the resources. Like I think when you say that, it made me think about some of the veterans, that
Mhm.
are have served our country, and then they're
Yeah.
they're having hardships, and that
Yeah.
you see them not having as much support, which is kind of sometimes
it's
sad.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah, it really is something that needs to be done for, and even you got the veterans, and they do. It's not a perfect system, but they at least do have a system. But you have somebody that is a cashier at the grocery store and decided to ride their skateboard to work that day, and they've
Right.
got kids at home or
Jumped
something.
on it like
and,
Back to the Future. Is that what they did?
yeah,
they
yeah,
jumped
right,
on a
something
skateboard.
like that. But
Well, I can't remember what movie that was.
oh,
It was some movie where
Back
they.
to the Future.
Oh, was it?
I
When
think
he
it's
jumped
Marty
on it, yeah.
McFly.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, I mean, really, it's just you're just people that are just trying to make it, and maybe like a low income household situation, that someone like that gets hurt, and there's nothing out there to help them really that I have found. I could
yeah, we're
So-
always looking for other options too.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great idea to start thinking about stuff like that.
Something.
For this local community, which would be great.
yeah, definitely.
You're gonna do great.
Oh,
You're
thank
doing awesome.
you.
I appreciate
Thank
you coming on this
Yeah, thank you.
podcast.
Thank you so much for everything.
Thanks for your
that
time.
you've done.
I look forward to seeing you again
Yeah,
here next week.
Eastern Shore Physical Therapy. You got us. They're the best physical
Thanks, Lindsay.
therapists around here.
So we appreciate Lindsay coming on. This is Better with Therapy with Martin and Lindsay Meeks. So thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you.